The Northman was directed by Robert Eggers and stars Alexander Skarsgård, Nicole Kidman, Anya Taylor-Joy, Willem Dafoe, Bjork, and it is an action-adventure movie set back in more Viking times about a man who wants to avenge his father's murder and rescue his mother from who was kidnapped by his uncle when he was a son. And basically it's just close to 2.5 hours of Alexander Skarsgård going "Rawr!" and just brutally slaughtering people to go kill his uncle who murdered his father brutally when he was younger. And it is fantastic. This movie is coming off the back of Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse, which is his previous film that starred Willem Dafoe as well and Robert Pattinson. And it was a homoerotic horror drama that was fantastic. I loved The Lighthouse. And The Lighthouse itself was coming off the back of another movie called The Witch, which starred Anya Taylor-Joy, like The Northman. And even Ralph Fiennes was one of the main characters in The Witch, shows up in The Northman briefly. And I wasn't a huge fan of The Witch. I thought technically it was fantastic, but it was just kind of like, I watched it and the last 20 minutes were pretty good, but I never really had much desire to see it again. And I know this might be a little bit, early to judge because it only came out 2 days ago. I feel like this is my favourite of Robert Eggers so far. I think it definitely beats The Witch and might slightly edge out The Lighthouse. One of my favourite parts of Robert Eggers movies is that despite layers of content and just themes and really thick plot with a lot to dissect that has plenty of rewatch value and really, really good character development, his movies never feel like they are pretentious or, as some people who deserve to be hung call it, elevated movies or elevated horror with Hereditary and The Lighthouse and stuff like that. Don't say that. People are admittedly stopping saying that, which has been good. But anyway, back to the point. His movies, they're so good because movies like, especially in The Lighthouse and The Northman, he's not afraid to make fart jokes. Willem Dafoe has his dick out within 10 minutes of the movie. What's not to love? Every single person in this movie was great. It's really interesting because you have more newcomers up the front, with Alexander Skarsgård and Anya Taylor-Joy being more the lead characters. Alexander Skarsgård plays Prince Amleth and Anya Taylor-Joy plays Olga of the Birch Forest. Those are the only two names that I'm confident on pronouncing, so I'm just gonna call them by the actual cast names. But they kind of take the lead. They have really good chemistry with each other. Everything felt very, very natural, and I really like seeing both actors, both Alexander Skarsgård and Anya Taylor-Joy, in more roles in the future, because Anya Taylor-Joy was in The Witch, fantastic in The Witch. She was great in Split as well. She was also really good in Glass, and she was great in this too. Alexander Skarsgård played Randall Flagg in the 2020 adaptation of The Stand, and he was fantastic in that, so that was my kind of introduction to him. And I was really glad to see him do super well again. It sounds strange to say this, but Nicole Kidman, Willem Dafoe, Ethan Hawke, they all kind of take the back seat in this movie and let the newcomers go first. Willem Dafoe is only in this movie for probably like 15-20 minutes max, and he plays Heinrich the Fool, I think is how you say it. So he's Heinrich the Fool. He's a bit of a fool. And Nicole Kidman plays, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she plays Prince Amleth's mum, who gets kidnapped by his uncle at the start of the movie. She was really good as well as a side character. I really liked her in the movie. Ethan Hawke plays Prince Amleth's dad, who is the one that gets murdered at the beginning of the movie and sets off his reign of revenge. One of the major themes in this movie that I really, really liked was fate. Everything was fate brought me here, and fate, is the reason for all this. And I found that really interesting because it led to some really, really interesting character plot lines. Especially, I won't get into spoilers for you, but especially towards the end of the movie, there are some decisions that are made that are just so out there and so you just don't expect it. And I really, really liked it. And this movie did such a great job at giving the right amount of exposition at the right time, without feeling like, this whole kind of sorcery system that really wasn't a major part of the movie, but it still built it up so well. And it never felt like, the movie was going, hey, this is what's happening. It kind of just sprinkles little bits in, and then halfway through, everything just kind of clicked with me, and it made a lot of sense. And it was so riveting figuring that out as a viewer, just what exactly is going on. And I really, really liked it. It was really unique. I'd like to see more movies do that rather than just have a bunch of dialogue saying, this is how this works, this is how this works, this is how this works, etc., etc. And it had the opportunity to do that, especially with Prince Hamlet as a young boy. They could have just easily covered that up by, having his dad just say, this is what's happening, as kind of a cover-up of just exposition, which is basically just saying to the audience. They had the opportunity to do that, but they didn't, and I really, really liked that. And this movie was gory. This was a violent movie full of awesome action sequences that are just so much fun to watch, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart, but I love the gore in this movie. I was expecting it to be kind of gory because, like, The Lighthouse had its gory moments, The Witch had its gory moments, but this is definitely like, on another level of gore across the two. Overall, I really, really like The Northman. It's one of my favourite movies to come out in the 20s, I guess is what we call it, the 20s. And I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. Thanks for watching my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Really, just go see this movie. If you're a fan, if you want something a little bit different to everything else and you just love wacky, crazy, gory action sequences, go watch it. You'll have a great time. And I'll see you later.